can we get full-time Bully Aspinall after this smear campaign? How are you going to be on the comeback?
Mate, when I come back, there is no more Mr. Nice Guy. Nice Tom. When it comes to MMA, he's gone. And I'm going full bad guy, I think.
What are you left feeling after the fight?
Well, look, if you were sidelined from doing your job for like 15 months, not allowed to do anything, you train your ass off for 6 months for a fight, then to get double eye pokes, be left with no vision for nearly 6 weeks because of an illegal move. How do you think I feel? I'm not feeling fantastic, am I?
Tom Aspinall has finally spoken out, and the entire MMA community is in shock. The fighter, known for his calm attitude, respect for opponents, and pure heavyweight skill, has reached a breaking point that nobody saw coming. And the moment he addressed the situation, fans immediately realized this wasn't the usual calm, polite British heavyweight giving controlled response. This was a man who felt disrespected, misunderstood, and let down, especially by the one person who should have supported him the most, Dana White. According to Tom, the UFC president didn't just question his toughness after the eye poke that ended the Cyril Gane fight. He practically brushed it off. Dana acted as if the injury was no big deal, almost joking about it, like it was just a small issue rather than something that could seriously affect a fighter's career. And Tom Aspinall has made it very clear, he's done acting like it didn't affect him. This was supposed to be his breakthrough moment, the rise of the most well-rounded heavyweight prospect since prime Cain Velasquez. But instead of celebrating his journey, people are now arguing over whether Tom gave up too early, whether he should have continued, and whether the eye poke, which left him unable to see properly for nearly 2 days, was enough to stop a title fight. Tom has been firm about it. He didn't quit. He made the smart choice. He protected his long-term vision, his family's future, and the career he has worked his whole life for. Because in the heavyweight division, losing even a little bit of vision isn't just dangerous. It can be the difference between becoming a champion and facing permanent consequences.
You know, something needs doing about it.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it's horrendous for me to look at that.
Stare at that. How is he not disqualified off that? It's outrageous. And then people start booing me like, my fault. Double fault in the eye, mate. I was trained for 14 months. Trust me, didn't want someone's finger knuckle deep in my eye. It's the last thing I wanted.
And somehow, the one person who should have stood up for him, the man who controls the UFC narrative, didn't do it. Instead, Dana White shrugged it off, acted like it wasn't a big deal, and basically suggested that Tom should have just pushed through it. And that's exactly where everything starts to blow up. Because for the first time in his career, Tom has openly admitted he's angry at the criticism, angry at the disrespect, angry that fighter safety seems to disappear the moment big money is involved, and angry that eye pokes, one of the most common and risky fouls in the sport, keep getting overlooked until someone's career is at risk. Tom spelled it out clearly. If this was a cut, no one would question him. If this was a fractured bone, no one would doubt him. But because it was an eye poke, suddenly, everyone online becomes an expert. Suddenly, everyone acts like they would have kept fighting. Suddenly, people pretend vision is optional in a heavyweight fight. And the wildest part is, this isn't even a new problem. For years, fighters have been calling this out. Icons like Stipe Miocic, Daniel Cormier, Belal Muhammad, and Leon Edwards have all dealt with similar situations. We've seen fights stopped. We've seen championships derailed. And despite all that, the UFC has still refused to change the glove design, even though specialists and former champions have been asking for it for ages. But this is where the situation goes from dramatic to explosive, because out of frustration, disbelief, and feeling completely unsupported, Tom Aspinall has now revealed something the UFC definitely didn't want reaching the public. He is seriously thinking about switching to boxing. Not someday, not maybe in the future. He's talking about it happening as soon as his current UFC contract runs out. According to him, unless the promotion starts treating him the right way, he's ready to walk. Fans were stunned. Tom has always been the respectful, loyal company man. But even he has reached a point where boxing looks more stable, more profitable, and more respectful than risking his eyesight for a company that didn't defend him when he needed it most. And this is no longer just talk. This is a heavyweight powder keg waiting to go off. The Francis Ngannou effect is real. Everyone watched Ngannou leave, cash massive checks, shake up the entire combat landscape, and prove that the UFC isn't the only path to global stardom. And Tom Aspinall has been watching all of that too.
Imaging, CT and MRI confirmed orbital soft tissue trauma. Confirmed! This is confirmation, okay? Orthoptic evaluations demonstrated impaired binocular coordination and restricted ocular motility. This is what the scans are revealing, guys. That doesn't sound good. I feel weird celebrating this because it's like we were correct and we're not lying and we're not making shit up. But also it's like, oh God, we were correct. This is terrible. This is really bad. You know, so it's a weird in-between that I'm at. Bilateral traumatic Brown's syndrome. Tom Aspinall was poked and Cyril Gahn put his fingers in Tom Aspinall's eyes and Tom Aspinall got Brown's syndrome from it. I don't know if this is a symptom of Brown's syndrome.
I'd say what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And Tom Aspinall right now is getting a lot of online. There's a lot of people supporting him, but there's also a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon and talking a ton of crap. And obviously John Jones, an incredibly popular fighter that's been around forever, he's one of the GOATs, you know, he's got a lot of fans and a lot of people are going to get on the side of John Jones. Simple as that, because they're his fans and Tom's English and he hasn't been around too long and all that kind of shit, right? But the reality is, he said that Tom Aspinall is incredibly overrated, and it's quite simple. All he has is a good 1-2.
He has a beautiful 1-2. I got to learn a lot about his patterns in his last fight. That's really about it. That's the one thing that he's setting up real nice.
That's it. That's all he's got. He's got a good 1-2. It's dangerous. He can knock people out. He got Curtis Blade with it and a bunch of other people. But if you've watched Tom Aspinall, you know that's not true, okay?
Given the way Dana reacted to the situation, the way some fans turned on Tom, and the way fighter safety keeps getting pushed aside, it suddenly makes complete sense why Tom publicly said he's exploring other options once the final few fights on his UFC contract are done. He knows his value. He knows how big boxing paydays can be. And he knows heavyweight boxers are often earning in one night what UFC heavyweights sometimes make across their entire prime years. And while Tom is weighing his future, Dana White is doing what he usually does, downplaying the issue, brushing it off, acting like nothing serious is happening. But the truth is, something serious is happening. This situation didn't just create tension between a rising heavyweight star and the UFC. It exposed a deeper problem fighters have been talking about for years. Fighter safety isn't treated as a priority unless it benefits a promotion. Tom choosing not to stay quiet was the moment the entire tone changed. He didn't just speak out, he challenged the unspoken rule that heavyweights are expected to tough everything out, no matter what. And the moment he pushed back against that idea, everyone suddenly realized how fragile the relationship between fighters and promoters really is. Because when Dana questioned how serious the injury was, when he hinted Tom might have been able to continue, when he treated a very real medical concern like it was nothing more than a minor interruption, Tom felt the message instantly. The message that in the UFC, you're valued until the moment your injury ruins a main event. And once that happens, the support fades, the respect disappears, the concern stops, and suddenly the fighter becomes a target. Tom addressed it himself. The backlash he received wasn't just unfair, it was reckless. People online calling him weak, claiming he gave up, acting like any heavyweight contender should continue fighting despite not being able to see properly against someone as dangerous as Cyril Gane. It's unrealistic. Tom has trained with elite boxers and world-class strikers. He understands the risks of combat sports far better than anyone commenting from home. And when he said doctors told him that pushing forward could risk his long-term vision, he meant it. He wasn't avoiding a challenge. He was protecting his future, his health, and his ability to live a normal life beyond fighting. That's why Tom is so frustrated with Dana's reaction. Because instead of addressing the seriousness of the situation, instead of standing up for his fighter, instead of shutting down the negativity, Dana responded in a way that felt distant, dismissive, almost sarcastic.
You first got eye poked.
Well, I actually got eye poked twice in the fight. The first one wasn't too bad. He got warned for it. The second one, obviously, Cyril Gane tried to make my head a bowling ball with the double eye poke, knuckle deep in both. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it at all.
How did you feel the fight was going before the eye poke?
I felt like the fight was going okay. It was going pretty much to plan. I think that, look, there was this big notion in the media before that I'm just going to run through Cyril Gane. Look, I might look like an idiot. Sometimes I might even talk like an idiot. But when it comes to fighting, I know what I'm talking about. And I know that Cyril Gane is a tough matchup for me.
And that was the moment Tom realized something important. If the UFC isn't willing to publicly stand behind its fighters, then why should fighters continue to privately defend the UFC? This is exactly where boxing enters the picture, and it enters loudly. Tom didn't mention boxing out of anger. He didn't bring it up because it's emotional. He brought it up because the facts are undeniable. Heavyweight boxing is a financial powerhouse, and Tom knows what he brings to the table. He has high-level striking, sharp footwork, strong fight IQ, plus size, power, and timing. Most importantly, he has name recognition, the kind promoters love. And Tom has already seen the blueprint play out. He watched Francis Ngannou leave the UFC, get mocked, get called crazy, and then walk into boxing and earn more in one night than he did throughout his entire UFC run. Tom Aspinall is not naive. He understands he's holding a heavyweight golden ticket. And the recent controversy only made everything clearer. Because this wasn't just an unfortunate accident in the cage. It highlighted a much bigger, ongoing issue that the UFC still hasn't addressed. Tom pointed this out directly. He called out the outdated glove design, the lack of urgency, and the absence of real preventative measures. Fighters have been asking for safer, curved gloves for years. Trevor Whitman created a better glove design over a decade ago. The UFC could have switched at any time, but they didn't. So fighters are stuck with the same glove that allow fingers to extend, leading to the same dangerous fouls that interrupt fights and force athletes into impossible choices, risk long-term damage, or get labeled as someone who gave up. Tom finally said what so many have stayed silent about. If the UFC won't take this issue seriously, fighters will eventually take their careers somewhere else. And is not wrong. This isn't just Tom versus Dana. This is about the message the UFC sends every time this conversation gets ignored.
Really good defensively. I knew that if we want to break the fight down a little bit, Cyril's got really good defense. He moves really, really well on his feet. I knew that I have to stand in range and take a few punches from Cyril to be able to land my own shots. We knew that. That was happening. I had a bloody nose. Look, any of my sparring partners know you only have to look at that thing.
I think it's a bit red now as well, isn't it?
It might be a bit red today, yeah. Got the old Rudolph thing going on.
It's not broken though, just to be clear.
No, my nose isn't broken, but I have broke my nose about 3 or 4 times in my life. So, look, touch me in the nose, it'll bleed. Yeah, nosebleeds happen in fights. Yeah, was he hitting me with a few jabs? Yes. Was I hitting him with a few shots as well? Yes. I thought it was going to be a 5-round fight. Go and look at my pre-fight stuff. I knew this was going to be a long and tough fight. I think that every fight I go into, and I really respect my opponent, especially Cyril. I think there's this notion with the media and maybe the fans that Cyril's not very good, which is just complete bullshit. I think that he's really, really good. He's super talented. He's been at the top of division for a number of years, which is not easy to do. He's been an interim champion himself. He's obviously had 2 title shots for the undisputed title as well. So I think the guy's really good. I've took him extremely, extremely seriously. The fact that
people expect it to be an easy fight. I don't read into that at all. I think I'm prepared for a really, really hard fight.
That was a lot of the take. Even if he is blind, he should fight on. Just go out there and fucking just geriatrically fucking look around the cage like Mr. Magoo, wondering where Cyril Gane is, while Gane just tees off on him with head kicks and wheel kicks and whatever he wants. And then if he would have lost by KO, no belt, Cyril Gane's champ, and I bet you anything people will have moved on real quick by now. Gane versus Pereira sounds great. I'm already seeing those discussions now that we think Tom might be out for a little bit longer. That's 100% what the MMA community would have done. Not the real ones, but that's what people do. They just move on past that shit. Goes back out there blind, gets destroyed, gets finished, and then bang. We just move on. So annoying.
Tom Aspinall, the most polished and complete heavyweight prospect the UFC has had in years, has now become the latest example of a situation that could have been prevented if the promotion took fighter safety more seriously. But this time, the backlash hit differently, because Tom isn't just some rising contender. He's the future of the division. He's the most well-rounded British heavyweight the sport has ever produced. He's the guy many believe would one day dethrone John Jones, the one who carried himself like a champion long before he ever fought for a belt. So when he said he was open to boxing, fans panicked, and rightfully so. Losing Tom Aspinall would be a massive blow to the UFC heavyweight division at a time when they can least afford it. John Jones is nearing the end of his career. Stipe Miocic is in the final chapter of his. Ganyu is gone. Gane has struggled with consistency, and there aren't any new heavyweights showing the kind of elite skill Tom brings to the cage. Tom knows all of this. He understands the leverage he has. And he hasn't issued a threat, not even close. He simply stated the truth. I have a few fights left. After that, we'll see. And that single sentence is enough to make Dana White nervous behind the scenes, even if he stays stone-faced in front of cameras. Because everyone knows what would happen if Tom Aspinall stepped into boxing tomorrow. He becomes an instant attraction, a headline name, a major draw overnight.
Does Tom want to go into the boxing world and maybe fight a Tyson Fury, maybe fight a Deontay Wilder?
I don't know if he does, but I think if you get into that top percentage of the sport, the UFC do not pay anywhere near as much as the boxing does. And I know, being around Tom every day, that when he spars good boxers, he spars good. So I think he'd do really well against a real high-class boxer.
With Zuffa Boxing under Dana White's leadership, do you think there could be an eventual crossover where you get a massive super fight that could be on a Netflix?
It doesn't depend on me, that depends on Dana White. But I think Tom has the ability, because I've seen him box at the highest level against some real good guys, that he could be at that level.
Said that you wanted a boxing champion.
For sure.
You're okay with an MMA champion, but you wanted a boxing champion.
Boxing for sure. The money is
more money.
Yeah. More money. Why not?
Would that be an outcome for him? No.
He's 3 more fights on the contract now.
Okay. So
and I don't want to sign a new contract. We only ever think one fight. Cyril, win, lose, next fight.
I'm excited to say Andy told me Tom will be a boxing champion by 2028.
So for Tom, unfortunately, and even his dad said this, he's like, Tom has 3 fights left on his contract, and then we're going to get a boxing super fight. We're out of here. Because think about it. Well, let's say he beats Cyril Gane, right? So we're never seeing that again. Who else would you pay to see him fight? Now it's going to be free on...
Only John Jones, only.
Yeah, so he has 3 fights left. So you're going to get Cyril Gane. He'll get the winner of Alex John, which happened at the White House. And then maybe fight if he loses that, which he will if it's John. If he were to lose that, he fights the loser of John versus Alex. Those are your 3 fights from Tom. And then you go to box, because let's say he's re-signed for 6 fights. Who are you going to watch him fight? Volkov, or he beat him.
Are you
Pavlich, or he beat him.
Yeah.
Curtis Blades, beat him.
Yeah.
Almeida, he doesn't deserve to be in the top 5. Acosta, those top fucking, besides Curtis Blades, 2 through 15 aren't even in the top 25 of this 2015. So for Tom, he was born at the wrong fucking time.
And something else for me personally, like one of the reasons that I'm very successful with my style, and again, I don't want to give too much away, but because I'm very, very athletic for the size.
You are.
My balance is great, my agility is great. That is, as well as other things, but that is a big advantage that I've got in the heavyweight division.
Some reporters think that because I think that he should box because it's more money, that affected him in the fight. I've never heard as much as people saying what I say affects Tom in a fight. I say loads of things to loads of people. People who are around me all the time know that. Boxers are around me all the time. It's just because of the money. And it's the back to, if your son was a fighter, would you sooner fight for a ton of money or not a ton of money? It's a no-brainer, but people still have a narrative of what a fight is.
He instantly becomes one of the biggest storylines in combat sports. The respectful British powerhouse who rose through the UFC, dominated everyone placed in front of him, and then stepped into boxing after feeling undervalued. That kind of narrative sells. It makes headlines. It moves pay-per-view numbers. But here's the twist that shocked fans the most. Tom Aspinall doesn't actually want to leave the UFC. He loves MMA. He loves the craft. He loves the supporters who've been with him since day one, and is proud of the journey that shaped him into one of the most complete heavyweights on the planet. But what he won't do is stay somewhere that overlooks his injury, dismisses his experience, or questions his commitment. And he made that perfectly clear when he ended his statement with a line that shook the entire MMA community. "I'll fight for the UFC as long as the UFC fights for me." That wasn't a threat. It wasn't drama. It was a reality check, a truth the UFC can't ignore. Now the pressure shifts directly onto Dana White. Will he publicly back Tom? Will he finally address the long-standing eye poke issue? Will he support the fighter many believe is the future of the heavyweight division? Because if he doesn't, the UFC could find itself reliving the same situation it had with Francis Ngannou. Only this time, Tom Aspinall holds all the leverage, all the momentum, and all the global attention.